Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this man on. It is Mike Davis coming to us from Milwaukee, the site of the RNC this year. Mike, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm doing well. I'm at the RNC, and the Republicans are strong and united. And the Democrats are weak and divided. So we're in a very good place.
Were you in the building last night when those speeches happened?
I was. It was very those were very powerful speeches, and I particularly liked the speeches from the real Americans in real America, talking about how President Biden's policies have directly and negatively impacted their lives. So it was a great night.
You know, it's interesting. The first night, there was a guy named Mark Laws from Michigan on, and I didn't realize that he's a listener or a viewer every day. He called in the next day. We talked to him for like 15 minutes last night on the air. You're right. Regular Americans being beaten down by the Biden administration, the ridiculous policies, are the ones that are really hitting home, because the Biden administration, as you and I have talked about, will look in your face and lie to you and tell you your life is better than you think it is.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. We have Biden's border invasion, where over 10 million illegal immigrants have flooded into our country, unvetted and unvettable fighting age men. They're bringing their crime, they're bringing their chaos. Biden's economy has made it impossible for real Americans like my family and friends back in Iowa to get mortgages, to buy cars, to the inflation's crushing them at the grocery store. We're in a very bad place under Joe Biden. And that's why we need President Trump back in that White House after we elect him on November 5th.
The media is scrambling. It's Mike Davis, by the way, article3project.org, article3project.org. Go and follow him everywhere and support what he does. The news media is spinning and going nuts. Newsweek, a little while ago, I just took a clip of this and posted it over on Twitter or X. It says Donald Trump's chances of winning are diminishing. Mike, are they on crack? What are they talking about?
Well, I mean, maybe look, President Biden tried to bankrupt President Trump. They tried to throw him in prison for the rest of his life. They tried to take him off the ballot. And one of these anti-Trump forces just tried to take President Trump's life on live TV on Saturday. And that is, I squarely blame Joe Biden for Saturday, because Joe Biden's campaign has been that Trump is somehow a dictator, a fascist who is going to destroy America. He's a great threat to America. And so Democrats must stop him at all costs. Well, that's what that guy just tried to do on Saturday when he got up on that roof, and the Secret Service had a catastrophic breakdown and let that guy on that roof and let him take a shot at the president and almost kill him. This guy came within a centimeter and less than a second of taking off President Trump's head live on national TV. This is unacceptable. And Joe Biden created this environment. Joe Biden's rhetoric has created this environment where someone thinks he needs to get up on that roof and kill the former and future president of the United States. And Biden is to blame for this.
You know, I couldn't agree with you more. This Kim Cheadle person, this Secret Service director, a friend of Jill Biden, I find out, from Philadelphia, she claims that the roof was too sloped. Now, you're from Iowa. I spent a ton of time in Michigan. You've got roofs like that all over the place that you and I have walked on many, many times. It wasn't too sloped. The Secret Service should have been on there. They should have been on the water tower. If they saw this guy beforehand, and we're hearing news today that they actually heard about the guy, that there might be somebody of interest 3 hours earlier, not even 30 minutes, 3 hours earlier, but they lost track of the guy. What is the process, Mike, of getting rid of somebody who's an appointed idiot like Kim Cheadle that doesn't deserve to be in that job? Because Biden says, and Mayorkas says, we've got 100% confidence in this woman.
Yeah, look, if she's not going to admit that her Secret Service, the Biden Secret Service, had a catastrophic breakdown on Saturday that almost led to the assassination of the former and future president of the United States, then there's something very wrong going on here. There's something very sinister. If she doesn't think that the Secret Service had a breakdown, if she thinks that everything's A-okay, there's something very wrong, and she needs to resign. And if she's not going to resign, the House must pass an appropriations rider.
All right, we were right in the middle of something, and this really just happened. This is a true story. Mike Davis is so hot in Milwaukee that his phone melted. We had to move position. Still looks like a great shot. Mike, if we could just pick up where we were, and thanks for getting back with us as quickly as you did. We're talking about Kim Cheadle, and you just brought up Congress. Can the House of Representatives, because you said they should, I guess, take all the appropriations away, can they take it away from her? You can't take the funding away from the Secret Service, obviously, but can you defund her specifically?
Yeah, the House Republicans should zero out her salary and the next must pass appropriation so she leaves office. She is a disaster. Not only did she allow her Secret Service to have a catastrophic breakdown that almost led to the former and future president's assassination on live TV. The bigger problem is that she's not taking accountability for this, and she's acting like everything's a-okay. She is a disaster. She is a danger. Just imagine if Trump would have been killed, his head blown off on live TV. Just imagine what the reaction would be in America. She cannot stay in this job.
Well, thank God he's okay. But for him turning his head at the last second, we'd be having a very different conversation. It's Mike Davis, article3project.org, article3project.org. The arrogance of the left, I think, has never been more prevalent than right now. When you see Joe Biden and Mayorkas and others all supporting this woman, we know that the DEI hires that we're covering, Donald Trump's 6'2.5". You've got women that are 5'4" surrounding him. They can't cover his head. One woman couldn't holster her gun. Mike, is there any question that DEI played a role in who it was that was guarding him that day?
Well, there's no question. I mean, this director, this Secret Service director, this Biden appointee, this Jill Biden buddy, has stated it's her mission to have the Secret Service with essentially a quota of 30% women. Look, if there are women who are qualified for that job, great. If they're big enough, if they're strong enough, great. But that's not what happens on Saturday, right? If you're a foot shorter than the president, you're not able to take a bullet for the president.
Right. You couldn't be more correct. It's Mike Davis coming to us from the RNC in very hot Milwaukee today. Let's talk about the RNC so far. And again, last night we saw a bunch of speeches. I thought, and you're right, the regular Americans are hitting home very well. I thought Vivek was amazing. I thought Laura Trump was amazing. Sarah Huckabee Sanders was amazing. Nikki Haley was lukewarm on Nikki Haley. She almost made it sound like she was begged to go there and go give the speech. I'm glad that she gave her full endorsement to Donald Trump, but the speech was very odd in my opinion. Well, what reflections do you have on what you saw and what you heard last night?
Look, I would say this, that the Republicans under President Trump are united and strong, and the Democrats under President Biden are divided and weak. And we're going to win on November 5th in a landslide. And we have to make sure that Republicans get out and vote as early as possible. Do not wait until election day to vote. Bank your vote, because if you thought the BLM and Antifa riots were bad in 2020, just wait for the Hamas riots in 2024, where they're trying to scare the hell out of Republican voters who think it's their patriotic duty to wait and go vote in person on election day. It's your patriotic duty to vote as early as possible for President Trump and to get as many friends and family members, neighbors, associates to vote as early as possible for President Trump. Bank your vote. You don't want to have a situation like they did with Abe in Arizona, where you had people lined up on election day. They're sent to the machines are not working. They get sent to another polling place, and then they're not allowed to check in because they were checked in at the other place, and they were disenfranchised intentionally by the Biden campaign, who opposed a 3-hour extension to let them vote. Vote as early as possible, because everything is on the line on November 5th. Our God-given rights to speak, to worship, to associate, to protect ourselves, everything is on the line. And do you want President Trump or President Biden replacing Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito on the Supreme Court?
It's a great question. It's Mike Davis, and he's talking about Abe Hamadeh, who's running for District 8 Republican, great state of Arizona, ran for Attorney General, allegedly lost by, I think, 300 votes, 200-something votes, and there are 9,000 or something that I don't think ever were even counted. And you're right, people waiting in line to vote for him, vote for Kerry Lake, they were not allowed to. They just shut the polls down. They were not given an extension, which they should have been. Let's talk about the Supreme Court, because you brought up Alito and Clarence Thomas. There are now reports, and I'm sure you saw these, where Joe Biden was on some Zoom call the other day with a bunch of people trying to see how he has the ability in the executive to restructure the Supreme Court. Mike, does he have that ability? And is this a reaction to the Chevron deference ruling the other day that said the executive has way too much power and it's not a co-equal branch? They pulled that power back from policymakers and unelected officials. Does Biden have the authority or the power to make any changes to the Supreme Court?
Hell no. And let's step back and think about this. We have President Biden and these Biden Democrats trying to bankrupt Trump, trying to throw him in prison for the rest of his life, trying to throw him off the ballot. And when the Supreme Court stepped in and stopped this, now President Biden, these Biden Democrats want to destroy the Supreme Court of the United States, and they pretend like President Trump is the threat to democracy. I can't think of a bigger threat to democracy than destroying the Supreme Court, a separate branch of government.
Mike, has Clarence Thomas done anything wrong, unethical? Because I know we've talked about this before. He's not the first Supreme Court justice that had friends give him a little something. I mean, it wasn't about changing rulings. Is he somehow more unethical or somehow even unethical at all compared to other Supreme Court justices?
No, he didn't do a damn thing wrong. He went on trips with his best friend for more than 25 years.
Right.
A best friend who had zero business before the court. There's no business by this man before the court. Zero, zippo. There's no ethical issue whatsoever. And I think it's kind of rich that these Biden and these Democrats are pretending like Clarence Thomas is corrupt when Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, and it seems like every Biden family member has taken over $20 million that they've been able to track so far in the House Oversight Committee into their bank accounts from China, from Russia, from Ukraine, from Kazakhstan. I think that President Biden should get his own house in order if he's going to talk about the Supreme Court needing to get their house in order.
Coming to us from the RNC in Milwaukee, hot Milwaukee, Wisconsin, it's Mike Davis, article3project.org, article3project.org. The documents case is dead for now, the DOJ threatening to appeal if they haven't already. Eileen Cannon, the district judge, makes the right decision. Mike, there was never any authority to place Jack Smith as a special counsel, and a question that came out of that case was, where did he get the $12 million he spent?
That's a very good question. And that's the problem. That's why Judge Cannon was absolutely correct in dismissing the case, because, look, the Constitution is very clear. If you want to appoint someone to office, that office needs to be created by Congress, or that office must be supervised on a day-to-day basis by Congress. So what happens with the special counsel is the office of the independent counsel, which was created by Congress allowed that to lapse after Ken Starr's investigation of President Clinton. And they didn't create a new office, and they didn't create a new office on purpose. And so the Justice Department just did an end run around that and created the Office of Special Counsel by fiat, by regulation. And that's unconstitutional because they get essentially an unlimited budget, which violates the appropriations clause. And then this is Jack Smith is an officer who's not appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate. He's not supervised on a day-to-day basis by the attorney general who's Senate confirmed, or a U.S. attorney who's Senate confirmed, and he has way too much power and way too much money.
Does the DOJ have a chance in appealing this or not?
They could appeal this to the 11th Circuit, and then it could get to the Supreme Court. But guess what's going to happen in the meantime? You're going to see that President Trump's going to win on November 5th, 2024, and on January 20th, his acting attorney general, I presume on day one, will dismiss all these cases, and I presume they'll dismiss that appeal.
It is Mike Davis coming to us from the RNC. Mike, the Atlanta case looks like it's on hold until after the November election. The Trump team was asking to have the district attorney removed, obviously, because she's corrupt and dirty and no good. What are the chances of that showing back up? Is that dead for now?
I think all this lawfare is dead. I think the Democrats threw everything they could at President Trump, and they lost. It backfired. This is Teflon Don. He's dodged bankruptcy. He's dodged prison. He's dodged the bullet. He's going to be back in the White House on January 20th, 2025.
It's Mike Davis coming to us from Milwaukee. One last question, Mike. I wonder if you would opine on this. Andrew Bailey, the Attorney General of Missouri yesterday, sued to have the entire case in New York, Alvin Bragg's case, dismissed and thrown out on its lack of merit. What are the chances of that? Does that have to go to the Supreme Court as well for them to decide on this? Does the presidential immunity thing that the Supreme Court decided on, does that clear Donald Trump? Because, again, it was 2017 when this NDA payoff happened, so he was already president.
Look, this case up in New York with this Soros-funded Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, who campaigned on getting Trump, working with Matthew Colangelo, a former top Biden and Obama political appointee who got deployed to Bragg's office to bring this zombie case against Trump that was passed over by the prior Manhattan DA, the Manhattan U.S. Attorney, the Federal Election Commission, and Bragg himself until he got pressure through Colangelo. And there, before this corrupt Manhattan Democrat Judge Juan Merchan, whose daughter is raising millions of dollars off of this case requiring Judge Merchan's recusal. He retaliated against President Trump by imposing an illegal and unconstitutional gag order. If Trump mentions Colangelo or Lauren Merchan or many other things, the judge is threatening to throw Trump in jail. Well, guess what happened? That Supreme Court's presidential immunity case made very clear that not only is the president immune from criminal prosecution for his official acts, you can't even use evidence of official acts in these prosecutions. So Bragg's case used evidence of Trump's conversations with his top White House advisors. Well, guess what? That means there has to be a mistrial declared in New York, and this case is going to go away.
Good. I hope that you're right about that. Peter Navarro will speak tonight. J.D. Vance is going to speak tonight. Going to be an exciting one, Mike. I appreciate you finding some time and getting out of the heat for a second and joining us from Milwaukee. Thank you, brother.
Thank you for having me on. It's very exciting to be here.
It's always a pleasure to have you. Go to article3project.org. Follow him over on X and everywhere else. It's Mike Davis. We're back after this. Stay right here.